Jeffery Williams was born into an environment, a community, a society that was filled with depression, despair, hopelessness, and helplessness. He was born, raised in the Jonesboro South housing projects. That's here in Southeast Atlanta. It's a very small 3-bedroom apartment. He lived with his 4 brothers in one of the small bedrooms. His 6 sisters lived in the other small bedroom, and his mother lived in her small bedroom. In the wintertime, it was freezing. In the summertime, it was scorching, because there was not that much money to go around to pay for utilities. The refrigerator and the cabinets hardly ever had any healthy food, and sometimes no food at all. In order to have the appearance of being able to wear different clothing, Jeffery would share clothing with his brothers and sisters, neighbors, and friends in the community. And although the clothing was oftentimes dirty, at least it gave the appearance that he can have a different look from the day before. When Jeffery would exit into the community, most homes' windows were boarded up. There were burglar bars on every entrance. Litter. It was not uncommon to find shell casings and human blood remains from the shootings that occurred. What really solidified Jeffery's distrust for the police happened 3 days before his 9-year-old birthday. Jeffery's born on August 16th of 1991. We are now August 13th of 2000. Jeffery's older brother, they called him Beanie. He was 20 years of age, 11 years older than Jeffery. He's shot in the chest. He collapses outside, not far from Jeffery's apartment. The neighborhood comes out. Jeffery and his family come out. They're praying over Beanie. It's going to be okay. There's help on the way. 911 was called. And what seemed forever, when the police finally did arrive, they didn't go immediately to Beanie. They had to push back the crowd. Jeffery's mother was hysterical. She was screaming for her child to survive. The police handcuffed Jeffery's mother, put her on the ground. And when they finally went to Beanie, put a sheet over his face, Beanie was dead to the police, even though his chest was still going up and down. He still breathed.
All right, still with us to discuss is trial attorney Marjorie Mesidor. And Marjorie, so far we've heard 2 opening statements for the defendants, and both of them have tried to do something similar to this, which is sort of provide context for these defendants. I think it's a great way to start. You got to let folks know who they are, where they're coming from, because that's going to inform a lot of the way they respond to various situations. So, what do you make of that story and the way these attorneys have chosen to begin their opening statements?
I think that you hit the nail on the head. I think it really humanizes the defendant. I noticed in some of the quotes from the prosecution, she referred to the defendants as a pack, okay? So people don't run in packs, animals run in packs. And also takes every liberty to just refer to him as some rapper. these things again dehumanize, bringing humanity back to him. This is a person. These were his circumstances. And while he may have made certain choices in life that you may not have agreed with, you have to understand that this is the environment in which he came from. Nevertheless, we are going to show you that he did not do this crime. And I think that at proffering a very honest narrative so people understand what they're looking at is important, because at the end of the day, you are looking at a human being.
And I really like how so far in opening statements, they've all said, you know, here are the crimes they did do or what they are guilty of, but it's not this. So they own, which I think they have to do. Otherwise, I think they're going to fail at the end of the day. So interesting delivery. Brian Steele, that's the attorney who was just doing opening for Young Thug, because he was very, you know, some are very charismatic and all over the place, but he was not. He was very almost stoic in his delivery and exacting. Does the jury notice those things, like how a delivery is done?
I certainly think so. I think that his style is very compelling. He took care to choose his words wisely. You wanted to hear every next word that he said, because even the way of standing, he made you believe that what he was saying was the most important thing in the world. You would be hard pressed to find a juror who didn't understand and who did not know, who didn't do the math that there was 11 children, who didn't do the math that they were in abject poverty, who didn't do the math that there was violence all around them. These are very concrete images, and he uses the imagery so incredibly well. And you could hear a pin drop in that court.
It was the way he commanded the courtroom, which I think really struck me. Another one of his messages, Marjorie, was that this is a conspiracy case, a RICO case, but that his guy, Jeffery Williams, Young Thug, didn't know a lot of the other people, barely knew them. And a lot of the conversations that this jury is going to hear about involve him, but they're not including him. How powerful do you think that was? And will that win the day in a case like this?
I think that in a case like this, particularly when you're dealing with so many different individuals, and when you're looking at a scheme of this nature, right? The connections between the individuals is important, because that's what makes it a scheme, a common mindset to do a thing. But if he's not involved in those conversations, if he's not in the room and they're speaking about him as opposed to around him, I would not be surprised if further down in his defense that they also put forth that probably the only reason why he's even involved in this, or his name is added to this side of the V, was so that the case could get some publicity and notoriety, regardless of whether or not they actually thought that he was guilty. I was actually just waiting for that part of the opening statement to be dropped. But yes, it is very important that he tells them specifically. We're talking about 27, I think, that he was arrested with.
Yeah, no doubt. And what they said, Marjorie, about that is that they had been investigating him, and they weren't able to get anything on him. At least this is according to his attorney. And so when they started arresting other people, they said, hey, if you can connect this guy to this crime, it may go well for you.
Right.
And that's kind of the theme that he put out there.
Right, and I think that that's a very valid, good theme for
No
defense.
question.
So we're going to see what happens. All right, stay with us. Still ahead, the defense says the song lyrics introduced by the prosecution are simply not connected to the charges in this case. Brian Steele breaks down his reasons. Up next.
I've worked hard all my life. I've gone from being a local reporter to becoming a law student to then even going on to teach other lawyers, all before I came to Court TV. As a journalist, lawyer, and teacher, I learned the secret to success is speaking in your authentic voice. And I bring that lesson to my show, Opening Statements, every morning on Court TV.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central, only on Court TV.
Continuing now with our coverage of the Young Thug RICO trial out of Atlanta, Georgia, Jeffery Williams' attorney told the jury all about his client during opening statements. Then later, he began addressing the song lyrics introduced by the state. Attorney Brian Steele says they are unrelated to the charges against his client.
Red just like Elmo, but I never F him give go. YFL won't fold, pick his A off a balcony. Off in the balcony. There's no evidence anyone got picked off a balcony. YSL, wife at ends, nose, which I showed you. I'm an F for the cash. Then she's getting robbed by Tick. Tick is another name for Trontavious C. He will tell you he had a rough life. He's been in custody. In a Bentley on West Lee, getting trailed by sniper, there's no evidence of that. All I ever wanted was the money. Put your hands in the air if you dare any MF to step over here. F&N, that's a type of gun. Put him in the wheelchair. These are lyrics that rhyme. Those are taken out of context in that song, but they're lyrics. If we're going to criminalize lyrics, you will learn. We all should watch what we say. You will learn that Bruce Springsteen sings about going out west, driving with a gun on his passenger's lap. They're going to kill everything in sight. Nobody prosecutes that. The rap lyrics, you will find out is prosecuted. Next one. March 25, 2016. Jeffery released a song on YouTube. It's called Slime, S-H-I. Hey, this slime, S-H-I. Hey, YSL, H-H-I. Hey, killing 12, that means police, S-H-I. Hey, flick a jail, S-H-I. Hey, cooking white brick, that would be like making crack cocaine. I'm not new at this, hey. I'm so true to this, hey. I done put a whole slime on 100 licks. Slime or get slimed. I'm the VIP and I got that pistol on my hip. You praying that you live, I'm praying that I hit. Hey, this, that same slime, S-H-I. FF, the police, in a high speed. Hundreds of rounds at the Tahoe. The next line has taco. These are rhyming. There are not 100 rounds in the Tahoe of Mr. Donovan Thomas. You'll have no evidence when that lyric was even created. The prosecution doesn't care. It's a release date. They have no clue. But this is what they're giving to you. And is it 100 rounds in a Tahoe like bullets hit a Tahoe? Or is it someone driving a Tahoe with 100 rounds in it? It's up to the listener, I guess. But the police officers in the city of Atlanta, district attorney's office, Fulton County, everything. It's like 24 M's on the N's head. Everything is viewed wrong. I'm prepared to take him down, got banana clips for all these ends. Acting monkey. This says slime, S-H-I. This says mob, S-H-I. F the judge, YSL. This is mob life. That's the overhead. It rhymes. There will not be one person to come in here, not be one document that comes in to say the intent of that song was to brag about something that happened to Donovan Thomas or anyone else. Jeffrey's being targeted. The next one, April 12, 2018. Jeffrey released a song on YouTube. It's entitled Anybody. Jeffrey said, I never killed anybody, but I got something to do with that body. I got the streets on my back, carry it like I'm moving a body. I told him to shoot 100 rounds, like he's trying to move the body. Ready for war like Russia. I got all types of cash. I'm a general. You will hear that other artists use the same type of lyrics. Before Jeffrey, after Jeffrey, these are typical. You also learn that this is a song that Jeffrey did with Nicki Minaj. This song is a gigantic success. Now it's become a confession.
Interesting points by Brian Steele. I think a good argument. Still with us to discuss, trial attorney Marjorie Mesidor. Marjorie, what do you think of, okay, we know 17 different song lyrics are going to be allowed, the judge ruled, but is it really going to help the prosecution, or are they opening the door to really create more problems and a little bit of reasonable doubt?
I think that they really are opening the door. I think it's silly for them to to rely on the lyrics the way that they have, unless we're talking about lyrics that tracks with specificity, with things that only somebody who was involved in the actual crime would know. I think that this is a whole lot of nothing and distracting and maybe clickbait and the like. I'm really disappointed at that choice from a legal perspective, because there's a real opportunity here to just really lay out the facts, right? Just to lay out what happened. This is what we have. But if we're pulling out lyrics and these sorts of things to plug in the holes, I think that you're looking at a not guilty verdict.
Yeah, I agree. I think it could backfire on them, Marjorie. You have a jury of 8 black women, 2 black men, 2 white women, 1 white male. And at some point, trying to say that what this guy is saying, because this is what rap does. It exaggerates, it takes what's going on in the streets, what these kids see, and they puts it into the music. And trying to say, hey, this is what we're going to use to put them now behind bars, I think really gives them the high ground in saying, hey, rap is on trial, not Jeffery Williams.
No, for sure. And I also think that it's a distraction, right? At the end of the day, we're going through this quote unquote process and trouble because there's a lost life here, right? And somebody needs to be held accountable for that. We want to make sure that the right people are on track, rather than looking at the seriousness of this and empowering people to be part of a process where they could actually undo some of the damage that's been done here. I think that you're dealing with a lot of smoke and mirrors. It was I believe that was poor judgment on their part.
All right, speaking of smoke and mirrors, one of the other attorneys raised the blue, the Fulton County blue. And these are some of the co-defendants that we know entered pleas that aren't going to trial, that are going to be testifying against these 6 who are going to trial. And really, he said, you know, be careful, because it's not as if they came forward and gave all this information to support the prosecution's case, but rather afterwards approached, kind of came up with these things. Do you think that's also dangerous territory for the state?
It is dangerous territory, but that's always the case with a co-defendant, right? If you have one individual who flips and another who doesn't, then they can say that the person was motivated by the bias in order to get the deal. The way that they structured this and the amount of evidence that they had prior to any corroborating statements by these individuals is really what is really going to be telling as to whether or not this is a safe bet. Because if they had compelling evidence, you know, documents, corroborated evidence, videos, anything like that, something more than just rap lyrics, right? Then I would say that it is a good risk to have these co-defendants testify.
All right, Marjorie, in the last 30 seconds, do you think celebrity will play a role in this case? I got to admit, I didn't quite know who Young Thug was, but I was surprised at his resume. He's pretty popular and has done very well in the business.
I think that celebrity will, only to the extent that it gathers more eyes and ears on the process. But one thing that I think that meaning the prosecution, is going to heavily rely on is make him into a caricature of a rapper as opposed to an actual person.
Yep.